Blox Fruits is a Roblox game that is heavily inspired by One Piece, but in the last 2 or so years, they've been trying to make the game not look like it's One Piece inspired. So today, we're gonna compare every single devil fruit in Blox Fruits and the One Piece manga and anime. I've got this tier list here that we're gonna use to grade every single devil fruit. Hopefully, most of them will be not in anime, and none of them will be IP infringement. I haven't done a giveaway in a video for a while, so if you watch all of today's video, comment down below with your username, and I'll pick a random person to give a permanent devil fruit of their choice. Let's start off with the first devil fruit in Blox Fruits, and that is the rocket, the coolest of the common fruits. We've got a rocket fist attack, air strike, rocket crash, coolest move in the game, and then the blast off flying skill. And I am super happy to tell you guys, the rocket fruit is in fact not in anime. It should be not in OP, my bad. Not in One Piece. This is 100% original. The only similar fruit might be Baby 5, but she is very clearly not capable of rocket crash, so she's trash. Our second fruit, super mid, is the spin fruit. We've got Razor Wind. I mean, you know what? The fruit's bad, but at least it looks good now. Like they added some graphical upgrades, and it looks cooler than it used to. And helicopter flight is not as bad as it used to be. Now, the spin fruit does exist in the One Piece universe. I found a short about it right here. My boy Buffalo uses it. He can fly with his hair, but technically the spin fruit, he never really does anything with it other than flying. We fly in a very different way. So while it's in One Piece. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the spin fruit is, I wouldn't say it's totally different. Oh, dude, honestly, it's in between. It's right here. I'm gonna go with it's a little bit similar. Up next is the blade fruit. We have Razor Cyclone, which is a very cool attack. And now I'm stuck in a building. Nice. Blade Dance, Saw Shredder, and then the ability to fly. We also block sword attacks with our built-in blades. Now, we have seen in this very old, very low resolution episode of One Piece that even against Mihawk, Buggy, who uses the Chop Chop fruit, similar to the blade fruit, is able to dodge or avoid sword attacks. He doesn't block them, though. And while we do see Buggy, like, separate into a lot of different pieces, which could be considered similar to Blade Dance, they're completely different fruits at this point. I think Blox Fruits has done a really good job of taking the Chop Fruit and making it completely different with the Blade Fruit. I think they're different enough that I'm going to take the Blade Fruit and I'm going to put it not in One Piece. That is perfect. Next up is the spring fruit. We got a bunch of spring attacks like knock, snipe, spring cannon. We have the leap ability, which will bounce off physical objects when you hit them. And finally, the only spring ability we've ever seen in the One Piece manga and anime, really, is something similar to Spring Emperor, which is like you bounce around in all different directions and you hurt anything that you hit, which we have actually seen in the One Piece anime. So the Spring Fruit is pretty much the same as Spring Emperor. I want to say that this one is very close, although we don't see Bellamy use any other attacks other than basically Spring Emperor. Unfortunately for the Spring Fruit, I feel like we basically have to put it in IP infringement. I think that's pretty much exactly how the spring fruit is in the anime and the manga. How about the bomb fruit? Another cool common fruit that I think honestly deserves another rework. Targeted bomb, it just causes an explosion. Bomb grab, landmines is very, very cool. Put those down everywhere, and if somebody steps on them, they go boom. Self-destruct is that's a Pokemon move. And then a movement skill and explosive jump. Now, Mr. 5 has the bomb fruit in the One Piece universe, and we do see him, he picks his nose and then shoots it, and he turns them into bombs. So this is very different, though, okay? The bomb fruit has the ability to turn anything it touches into, like, into a bomb. It causes an explosion, really. My entire body can explode. So I guess I was wrong. His awakened version would allow him to turn other things into bombs. His entire body can explode, and that's kind of what you're doing here. I don't know. The landmines, definitely not the bomb fruit from the One Piece universe. So Yes and no. Let's take the bomb fruit and let's just go with similar. Our second last common fruit is the smoke. We have Slam. We got Smoke Blast, Smoke Liberation, and then the Smoke Bomber ability. Now, I feel like this fruit has been changed to be very different to Smoker. This video literally has all of his abilities. So we see that Smoker is able to grab people with his smoke, which we don't have any abilities that do that in the game, which is a good sign. I guess the way he slams Luffy with it is a little similar to our first ability, but it doesn't grab people. We can't grab anyone with the smoke fruit. White Snake, very similar. It feels like a fruit that he uses to put people down. Like he holds them down. He uses them to capture people. These are all movement abilities. So it's definitely like it exists, but they are totally different from one another, which is good. That's still a point in our favor. And the final common devil fruit is the spike fruit, which has the ability to summon spikes, believe it or not. It's got some odd attacks, and off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone in the One Piece universe that is like this, but maybe I'm wrong. We only have 4 attacks, and they all revolve around either summoning spikes or making yourself spiky. I was wrong! The spike fruit used by Miss Doublefinger. There you go. She releases spikes from her body, which is a little bit different to what we're doing. Okay, there she is as a giant spike ball rolling around. We definitely have that ability. Okay, that doesn't look good for us. So let's take the spike fruit and we're going to throw it in similar. It's not 100%, but there's definitely similarities. The flame fruit used by both Ace and Sabo. I don't think this one is similar. We have fire bullets, which is like a long-range attack. Burning Blast is also a long-range attack. Fire Column is a big upwards explosion. Flame Destroyer is a pretty standard one. I feel like this is probably in the anime and the manga. And then Flight, which I don't know if we ever see either of them use. So starting with Ace, I guess, you know what? Actually, that is a ranged attack similar to the second one. Okay, Ace definitely has fire finger guns. All right. So that's definitely done for. We're done for there. Fire Pillar? Oh, no, dude. Okay, Blox Fruits, you're done, bro. And then we also know that against Blackbeard, he uses a giant fireball, which I can't... What does he call this? Sun God or something? Flame Emperor. There we go. All right, I tried to be chill about it, but no, the flame is very... You know what? The flame is IP infringement. All of those skills Ace can use. And you know what? In saying that, I have a feeling that Ice is very similar. One that we've never seen. Aokiji definitely doesn't use a trident. Cold Storm? Don't know about that one. Glacial Surge feels like it'll be in there. Frozen Dragon. And then Absolute Zero. This is the awakened version of the fruit, by the way. We have Ice Skating as well. There's the tridents, but... they're not a weapon that they're more like arrows. You know what? They look more like arrows than actual tridents. Here is Aokiji creating a sword. Again, not a trident. So we're kind of good there. There is this one, though. All right. Ace and him are fighting. There's the Ice Bird. The unawakened version of the Ice Fruit does have an Ice Bird. So for the Ice Fruit, I want to go with maybe just similar. It definitely has some attacks across the awakened and the unawakened version. It's not IP infringement, though. How about the Sand Fruit? Desert Blade? I don't know if I can think of any time that Crocodile used something like that. Sand Coffin is definitely a move that has been used, I think. I think we'll find Sand Coffin. Sandstorm is up next, which is an obvious one. It's the Sandstorm. Deep Sand is a big sand explosion, and then Tornado Flight. Oh, you know what? That is the Desert Sword attack. Desert Espada, straight away. Sables is another one that's pretty popular with this guy. This is basically the Sandstorm attack. Here's a bigger version of the Sables attack. Oh, that was the Purple Lightning. Okay. That's the deep sand attack for sure. I think with that one, I think the sand is going to go into very similar. It's missing like one attack. That's pretty much IP infringement. How about the dark fruit? Now, the awakened version, I don't think is going to have that much in common. Although, to be fair, the ability to grab like this is very dark fruit coded. Then we have Endless Hole, which is such a classic dark ability. I'm sure we'll find that. World of Darkness, also very similar as a dark ball attack. The thing I don't think we'll find is Ghastly Step. I've never seen Blackbeard move quickly. The Black Hole ability by Darkbeard, it swallows up everything around it. I feel like that's similar to the Endless Darkness. It's not necessarily in a circle, it's just a massive area of evil. Next is the Vortex skill, which is kind of like the second ability. This one actually like has a special effect on Devil Fruit users, but you can see where the inspiration came in Blox Fruits to be able to drag someone into your hand. That's sort of it for the Dark Fruit, which means like there's some similarities. I mean, maybe when we see more of Blackbeard's abilities, it's similar, right? It's not totally different or anything. It's just we have more abilities than Blackbeard does. Now, this one, for sure, I don't think there is an eagle fruit in the manga or the anime yet. There's a falcon fruit, but we got rid of that. So Windburst, Feather Storm, the Bone Crusher ability, and then Soaring Talon, and then you've got your flights and your mouse button. But I don't think any of this is in One Piece. Let's find out, though. Here's the Tori Tori Mi model, Tori Tori no Mi, which is Falcon. But when you ride an eagle, you pretty much just get other One Piece stuff or Blox Fruits. So big W on this one. The eagle is not in One Piece. The Diamond Fruit. This one's going to be difficult because I know it's in One Piece, but I don't think we've seen any of its attacks. So we can dash forward. We also have a ranged ability that shoots diamond shards. We have a large flash ability. And then Megidot. This is actually a prismatic reflection. This is from that time I got reincarnated as a slime. It is not from One Piece. So a member of the White Beard Pirates. He's got a naturally powerful body, but he can also turn into diamond. So here we can see the encrust of his ability. Obviously, he looks a little bit cooler than we do. He doesn't have spikes on his back, though. Brilliant Punk is just him using the diamond fruit to, like, elbow somebody or, like, clothesline them with his arm. He's pretty much just hitting things hard with diamonds. So we can't say it's not in One Piece, but it is totally different to One Piece. The Light Fruit. This is, I think it's a spear, okay? Kizaru does not use a spear. Divine Arrow is up to 3 arrows shot at once. Hand of the Emperor. This is the unawakened ability, I think. No, it's not. That's the awakened one. That's just a light beam. Destroyer is a dash forward that slams them down into the ground. And then Wrath of God is a giant dropping of light beams. And obviously you can fly. Kizaru uses the Light Fruit. He is a fan favorite. Obviously, he's Logia type. You can see here that Kizaru, like, he goes to kick, but it becomes a beam attack. So, like, Light Fruit beam attacks. The unawakened version uses beam attacks. The mirror attack that he also uses, or the way he travels between light mirrors before he kicks someone. This one right here. This is very unawakened light fruit coded. So we also have his sacred jewel attack, which is like a lot of beams all at once, kind of going everywhere. This is kind of similar to the V ability. I think with the light fruit, we could go ahead and just put similar. It is pretty similar. It's very difficult for it not to be. Light is a generic power. Next up is rubber. And this one is probably going to be the hardest one to judge. So we have Rubber Cannon, which is just like in the anime. We got Smash, which is like Axe. Rush is quick punches. Slingshot is the most fun you can have in this video game by grabbing onto something and slinging forward. And then Transformation, which is clearly Gear Second. So it's pretty easy to find all of these attacks in the... so there's the Gatling, which is the Rush ability, which turns into cannon right here. Boom. It's 2 arms pushed forward. For cannon, yeah. This is a giant axe, but it's pretty much the same thing. Luffy puts his foot up in the air and then brings it down like an axe. And for some weird reason, the transformation, I can't find it on... He's already transformed here, but it's the exact same position. You get the pink body, you get the steam. We all know this. Sorry to say this one, but rubber is IP infringement. How about the Ghost Fruit? So this one has Shivering Possession, which is a movement skill. Spectral Release, which is a cry. Another cry, which is a cry of the underworld. It's a cone attack. Ghostbusters summons allies that will fight with you. They use your fighting style or your sword. And then Wandering Soul is just flight. Now, I don't believe there is any kind of ghost fruit. The closest thing would be Perona's ghosts, but they're a part of her negative fruit, not actually her horror fruit. It's not actually a ghost devil fruit. This one's really easy. We could go, the ghost fruit is not in One Piece. It might be inspired by Perona's stuff, but it's definitely not in the One Piece universe that we know of. Next up is the Magma fruit. I have the awakened version. So first we have the Magma like fist barrage. Then Volcanic Assault is a grab ability. The Great Magma Hound is quite literally a big ball of lava. Volcanic Storm is the same, but you start off with like this volcanic fist and it goes big explodies. And then Beast Ride, which is you ride like a magma ball. So and a lot of it is fist attacks and a lot of like lava, very similar to what we already have. Is this a big punch? A big lava punch? It is, but this is a connected fist. So it's similar, but also different to our ultimate ability with the awakened magma. Next, we have like magma meteorites that fall from the sky, which you could argue is similar to the first skill, but it also is fundamentally different. I'm not going to go with IP infringement, but I'm going to go with very similar. Legendary devil fruit, starting with the Quake. Now, I have the awakened version. The Fatal Demolisher is, first of all, it's a grab, and then you punch and causing like a Quake effect. Air Crusher is a ranged attack, which I don't think we see at all. We definitely see Spatial Shockwave. It's just a big explosion. And then we definitely see Sea Quake as well. Where are they? There they are. The waves cometh. This is kind of Fatal Demolisher. He punches Odin with the Quake fruit. It causes the shattering of the air or whatever it does, and then it throws him away. Punches the air with both hands, and it summons tsunamis. Because there is no ranged attack, though, I'm just going to go with very similar. It's definitely not IP infringement, but that could just be because we haven't seen enough of the fruit's abilities. Blackbeard using it, maybe we'll see more of them in the future. Next up is the Buddha fruit, where obviously Awakened Buddha does look a fair bit like Sengoku. I think Heavenly Impact is pretty similar. Then we have Light of Annihilation, which is a long beam attack. Retribution Dash is just a movement skill. And then Twilight of the Gods, which I think is a Blox Fruit's original, is a lot of beams and a big explosion. And here we have Sengoku, former leader of the Marines, transforming into his Buddha form. There's definitely a lot of light beams, but they don't seem to do any damage. They just make him bigger. After the transformation, we do see Sengoku use one punching, but also like aura attack. This is kind of similar to the first ability that you get to use with the Buddha fruit. And for that, I think the Buddha fruit can pretty safely just go into the similar category, mainly because the transformation is super similar. It's very hard to ignore that fact. Up next is the love fruit, which we know is very different because they actually intentionally changed it. So we have the heart shot, which doesn't shoot arrows like Boa does in the anime and the manga. This one's an explosion. Cupid's zone is the arrow attack, but we use a bow where she uses a heart, and this causes a downward attack spiral. It does not cause arrows. Attraction is a drag move, and then Best Friendo actually summons another person. And our flight skill is a flamingo. There's nothing similar to her whatsoever, I think. This is just her love beam. Okay. This one we definitely used to have, but it has been removed, and this turns them all into stone. That was legit the only ability of hers that I could find, but honestly, I want to say totally different. It is in One Piece, but it is totally different. The Creation Devil Fruit has made its return. So this one has a hold ability, which is based around cards. It's a little shield. We have Batter Up, which shoots us out of a cannon, and then we hit the enemy. Sleight of Hand lets you grab and slam your opponent. Sword Box, this is basically an ability from Bleach, but it's a box with swords go into it and it explodes. And then Magic City is a giant. It's kind of like, well, the Barrier Fruit didn't really exist that much in One Piece either. Like, it's similar, but it was already not the same. And then we have Fortify, which has build mode and everything, which is the Fortnite fruit. Fairly certain if I write in Creation Fruit, I'm just going to get Blox fruits. Obviously, there's the Barrier Fruit, but it is not similar in any way anymore. And yeah, I think we're pretty safe to put this one as not in One Piece, which is their goal. I believe this is their goal. The Spider Fruit, which is, of course, the string fruit in One Piece. So we have Thermal Lacerations, the awakened version. Silk Prison, which we've definitely seen in Birdcage. Eternal White Bite, I think we've also seen in One Piece. And then Heavenly Punishment, which is a very cool looking attack, underrated attack in this game. And Spider Highway, this is actually the Spider-Man ability. It's got nothing to do with One Piece. This is the 5-color strings, which we do have in the unawakened version. So it's like a rainbow string attack, as you can see. Next up is his Overheat, which is, this is like a whip, but it is very similar to what our thermal lacerations are based on. Bullet String, I believe we have a bullet string sort of attack in the unawakened form. Break White, I think this is very muchly, no, Off-White, this might be what it is. There are two abilities that are very similar to what we already have. And now he has God Thread, or the 16 Holy Bullets. I think this is what our ultimate attack is based off. Yeah, that's definitely the ultimate attack that we use as well. And the Haki color even changes. They have made some changes, but more need to be made to... It's definitely IP infringement. The Sound Devil Fruit is up next, and this is our travel skill, our flight skill, the Tempo Pretissimo, which is very cool. It also has the golden aura. Let's check out the actual attacks. Rhapsody Notes, you can hit it 3 times to throw out music notes. Fortissimo is like a sound cannon. Symphonic Radiance is an AoE attack that shoots out of a disco ball. And then Glorious Harmony is a giant sound-based explosion. So obviously it's not Scratchman Apu, it's more Uta that the Sound Fruit seems to be based off, and she's a little bit difficult because she hasn't done a lot of fighting in the show. You know what? Here is actually a disco ball attack from Uta. She throws a disco ball up and it explodes between them. All right, there's a little similarity right there. Okay, Uta's abilities are kind of cracked and overpowered, and ours are nothing like hers, except for the Symphonic Radiance. So let's take the Sound Fruit and put it in... We can't really say totally different because it's lack of information. I guess we could go similar. It's definitely in between. It's very in between. We'll go totally. Let's go totally different. Oh, the Phoenix Fruit. Let's go. Okay, Cremation Cannon is a blast attack. Blue Flames is an AoE heal. Flame Exodus is like a kicking ability, but it also grabs them and slams them into the ground. Blazing Plumage is the transformation into full version. And all of our other attacks evolve just into larger versions. They don't actually change much. Marco has had a solid amount of screen time with his Phoenix Fruit. So we can see he is different to us when he is in his hybrid form, but that's the idea. Marco definitely has a kick ability, but it's very different to ours. Our ability is a grab. Marco's is a kick. Marco's Blue Bird ability is very similar to our first one, our cannon ability. It shoots out a shot that explodes on hit. Yeah. All right. It's pretty generic, though. It's not like you'd have to copy that. It's obvious. I think with the Awakening, Blox Fruits has made a pretty solid effort to move it away from IP infringement, away from very similar. It's still a little bit similar, but the similarities are kind of obvious choices, like you add a cannon attack. That's not really stealing something when it's just kind of obvious. Up next, we have the Portal Fruit, which has a backflip attack, a dash. We have a escape to another dimension. World Warp, which is just for getting around. Quantum Leap is a doorway forward, like a portal forward. And then, as I'm sure everybody knows, Dimensional Rift is literally another reality. Now, it used to be the Door Fruit, but they changed it to completely get away from One Piece. So when we say that like none of the attacks are similar and it's a completely different fruit now, it's pretty safe to say it is not in One Piece. I think it's pretty safe that we can take the Portal Fruit and say it is not in One Piece. They changed it enough. I'm going to give them the highest grade. I love the Portal Fruit. No, it's the Rumble Fruit. Okay, ask anyone. This one's IP infringement. This one needs a change. It's also hard because it's a lightning fruit, so obviously you summon lightning. Sky Judgment is a beam of lightning. Electric Flash is the ability to sort of like electrically teleport, but it's limited. And then Thunderball Destruction. Now, if you think about the unawakened version and the awakened version, it's pretty much all stuff from the One Piece universe. So we all know Enel. He is probably the second big bad that we run into. Next up is his, I'm not 100% sure, Mamaranga. This could be a different translation. It might not be Japanese, but this is a lightning attack. This is a lightning storm. And here is Enel's big Raigo, the giant electrical ball, which we also have This one's IP infringement. Everybody knows this too because it's such a cool fruit and an L is so great. It's very hard to take the Rumble and turn it into something that isn't a ripoff. So this one is IP infringement for sure. Next is the pain fruit. And now I know you're going to say there's no pain fruit because it's been renamed. Obviously, it was the paw fruit. But all of the abilities are still paw fruit abilities, kind of. A pain nuke definitely is. That's Ursa Impact. Self-repel is kind of the movement skill, although Kuma's is way better in the One Piece universe. I'm really excited for when this fruit just gets changed. And then obviously we have torture, which is kind of what Kuma does to take people's pain away. But obviously in this game, we only inflict pain. So it's an attack rather than an assisted move. So all of Kuma's attacks are kind of exactly the same. Like he hits the paw through all of them. It's just there's less of a visual indicator than what there is in Blox fruits. Here is Kuma's version of the barrage. He fires a bunch of paws exactly like we do. And here is Ursa Impact, which is our giant, what was ours called? Cannon? I don't even remember. But it comes out small and then it explodes very, very big. Like so, massive explosion. So it's pretty safe to say that the pain fruit would be IP infringement, but they've changed the name. So I guess we'll just go with, you know what? No, because I put spider as IP infringement, even though its name has changed. So yeah, the pain is IP infringement, bro. And the final legendary devil fruit, which is the blizzard, which I think is a take on the snow fruit, which we have seen. It's on, I think, Punk Hazard. So we have the shuriken attack. We have the whiteout attack, which is a little snow tornado. Howling winds, which is just a bigger snow tornado. And then blizzard domain, which is a massive snow tornado, which is cool. And we can fly as well. No click ability or anything. Monette uses this fruit, and you can see straight away, she's kind of doing the last skill already. The massive ice, or the massive snow field that she's using. This is the chick that we think Zoro, like, outright kills, man. He cuts her up. We cannot do that with the blizzard fruit, so there's one difference. So for the blizzard fruit, the name is different. Literally one of the skills is the same. So I think we'll go totally different. It's definitely in One Piece, but it is totally different. Time for the mythical devil fruit. Starting off with the gravity, which I know these are pretty much all different. There's some similarities, but the gravity's recently been reworked. So we have a click ability, which is just like a gravity impact. Then we have singularity, which is like a drag and explosion ability. Orbital change shoots rocks at things. Gravitational prison is very like black hole gravity ability. It's very cool. And then asteroid crash is probably the only similar one, which is like, well, it summons an asteroid. What else is the gravity fruit going to do in the game or the show? And then shooting star lets us ride on, well, an asteroid, I guess. So we all know Fujitora uses the gravity fruit. He has very different attacks at this point, I believe. This short literally shows the meteorite difference between Blox fruits and the meteor that gets summoned by Fujitora in one of the films. That's probably the only similarity at this point. So let's grab the gravity fruit and let's go with, I kind of want, we'll go with similar because it has some similar aspects. But again, it's gravity. You can't do that much different regardless. Next one is the mammoth fruit. And I know this one's difficult because Jack does almost nothing in One Piece. So we've got ancient cutter, prehistoric punt. These are all just like the shadow of a mammoth appears. Colossal crusher is the same as well. And then Stampede is a jumping skill when you're not transformed. But if you do transform, not only does our mammoth look different, we gain like a swinging of our tusks ability, and then we have ancient cutter. Everything just gets bigger. Nothing really changes except for Stampede, which is where we just like, we run and we damage stuff that we run into. I'm fairly certain that Jack does next to nothing with his fruit in all of One Piece, so this might not be too similar. Okay, here's Jack using a roaring ability. That's kind of the only thing I was able to find. He kind of just gets his butt kicked, and all the damage he does is just sort of him moving his tusk around. He just loses, man. Let's take the mammoth fruit and let's throw it into, we'll throw it into similar. No, totally different. Because even our transformation looks different. We gotta be kind here. It is totally different. It is in One Piece, though. The T-Rex fruit, this one has a fury meter in our game, so I have to get it up a little bit. We have a click slashing attack, which is cool. Tail swipe. Predatory screech, which is like a roar ability. Hunter's rage is a slash and dash. And then Gigantic Leap is a movement skill. And then if we fill up our Fury bar, we can transform into a T-Rex. Now, our T-Rex looks very different. Ours is way more prehistoric. And then all of the abilities just sort of get bigger. And our click abilities start to involve the T-Rex's mouth, which is very cool. There really is very little footage of these sort of like side characters using their full transformations. Here is Drake using the T-Rex fruit, and I think he just bites. So he bites its head, and then he gets shot by a laser and screams. And that's pretty much it. All of Drake's other abilities are in his hybrid form that we've sort of seen. He attacks in his hybrid form. And that's kind of it. So since we don't have a hybrid form, I'm going to have to go with totally different. That's a W for Blox Fruits. Okay, fan favorite time, and that is the Dough Fruit. We all know that this one is copyright infringement. Let's be real here. I think most of these abilities are used at some point by Katakuri. I really hope that we don't have to change any of these. I hope that we just get to keep everything as is, because this is one of the coolest fruits in the game. Even though it's a little bit old now, still one of the coolest fruits in the game. Now, I forgot to say the names of all the abilities, but there they all are. So here's where the inspiration for our punches sort of come from, which is Katakuri pulls arms out of dough that is floating around him, the power mochi. This is where most of the inspiration for our fruit comes from, and it is a cool attack. And there is the huge barrage of them that is our ultimate, our V ability in Blox Fruits. Here's the flaming mochi that can be shot, which is our first ability, unfortunately. Now, we don't really have this one. We don't have the Zangiri mochi, which is strange because it's such a cool attack. But I think this is the inspiration for our C move, because there's the giant slam that is like, this is pretty much it. Ours just starts a little bit differently. God, this is a cool fight. And unfortunately, the Dough Fruit is IP infringement. 100% is basically 1-for-1, man. How about the Shadow Fruit? So first we have Somber Rebellion, which is a cool little dash attack. Jade's Nest is bats that will hone in on your opponent. Nightmare Leech lets you heal with like a claw attack. Umbrage is flight, where you turn into shadow. This is pretty different from the anime and the manga. And then Corvus Torment is a shadow explosion. This is nothing like the shadow fruit that Gecko Moria uses. So we have the little bats that Gecko Moria summons, and they bite Luffy. So I guess this is sort of where the inspiration for the bats that we have come from. It is very different, but that's the inspiration. And there is a point in time where he gets giant, but it's not giant in the same way that we do. In fact, you know what? Other than the bats, they are totally different. So let's take the Shadow Fruit and let's just go with, we'll go with totally different. They have literally one similarity, and that's the bats. Time for the Venom. So Poison Daggers is just like a little poison machine gun. Noxious Shot is a large poison explosion. Toxic Fog is like, it's poisonous fog that follows you around. It's pretty nice. Serpent's Wrath is our movement skill that also does damage when you untransform. And then with Fury, you can turn into the Hydra, which just, it makes all your attacks bigger and more OP. Especially Toxic Fog. It goes crazy once you transform. Magellan uses the Venom Fruit, and let's be real here. He defeats Luffy and Blackbeard with this fruit. This guy's underrated, okay? He has the Hydra ability, which is, it's not as cool of a transformation as ours, but it's definitely where the inspiration comes from. He can also shoot a poisonous ball, which I believe it explodes. Yeah, it does. Maybe that's the inspiration for the Toxic Shot of ours. I'm not 100% sure. He can also travel through the Hydra, which is, again, where the inspiration for our movement skill comes from. He can also shoot the little toxic bullets in fast succession, which is kind of like our poison daggers. It's not looking good for the Venom Fruit, guys. I think this one goes into IP infringement. It is very similar, but a lot of the older mythics are, so it's fine. Now we have the Control Fruit, which is a difficult one to be exactly the same. Levitate is definitely similar. You can pick stuff up. Echo Knife is a slashing ability that you move around with. We have the ability to teleport, which is very cool. It's inside the zone. And then Gamma Rush hits everybody in the zone by flying around, slashing up everything that you can see. The thing is with Law, he's kind of very different, and his abilities are hard to translate into a PvP game. So using room to teleport and teleport others. We can't teleport others, but the teleport works, okay? And here we go. He has Tact, which lets him like throw rocks and things, which is like our levitate ability. Very cool. And while he does have an Echo Knife ability, it's completely different to ours. His Echo Knife ability is based around electricity. So when I think of the control fruit, I think I'll probably throw it into the similar category, which is, this ain't looking good. There shouldn't be this many fruits that are similar. We got to keep reworking devil fruits, man. Oh, the gas fruit. Okay, I think this one might be good for us. So we have a mouse button click, which is like a gas sword. It's very cool. Love the gas sword. Suffocating fumes is a movement skill that grabs the enemy. Bursting vapor is an AoE that grabs the enemy and tosses them. Smoke demons, they hone in on the enemy. They're like heat seeking missiles, and the traveling gas is obviously how you fly around. And then once we fill the gas meter, we're able to transform, and I know that this version of the gas looks very different to anything in the anime, so that's a good sign. So we do see a gas sword at some point. That's like one of the few things that are similar, the blue sword. A lot of his abilities are based around fire because of gas. So I honestly think that I could put the gas in totally different. They literally have a sword in common, and that's kind of it. The Spirit Devil Fruit, it used to be very similar. It is now quite different. Now, the homies that you can summon, some of them, like the tree, are still very similar. But all of the skills are sort of very different now, I think. Frostfire Grasp is a grab ability. Wrath of Ra is throwing the sun. I think that's similar to a Big Mom attack. Wrath of Shu is ice-based, not electricity. Sky Ruler is just flying. But then the End of Time's beam attack, that might be a little bit Big Mom coded. So when Big Mom combines her 3 weapons together and does this huge blast attack, that's kind of like what the End Time beam is. Although, if I'm honest with you, the ability had come out before this was animated, so who knows. Here's her throwing or burning everything to dust with a big flame guy. That's kind of like what our Wrath of Ra is. Like, you throw the fireball. Makes sense, right? So I think the Spirit is still a little bit similar, leaning towards totally different. It's pretty similar. If there was a level between these two, it would be in there. There's still a lot of similarities. Okay, the Leopard's a hard one because let's just transform because the abilities are all the same. Finger Revolver, Spiral Kick, After Image Assault is definitely a bit of a unique one, I think. Body Flicker is also a dash one. And then obviously we can punch and roar. But I have a feeling that something weird happens with the Leopard Fruit, okay? You see, Finger Revolver and Spiral Kick are not actually Leopard Fruit abilities. They're these special abilities or special fighting techniques that are taught to a lot of different Marines. Here we go. The Roku Shiki is the series of abilities, and that's where you have like your Geppo, which is your Skywalk. One of these is like a kicking ability, and then Shigan, which is the finger guns. If we go back to some of the older stuff, you can really see Rob Lucci using these abilities. So he's actually flicking there instead of using just finger guns, but ours are also a ranged attack. Here's a really good example of the finger gun right here. The finger pistol, literally what we're using. It's a very fast succession of finger hits, and they can be shot out, as we saw earlier. I really think that the Leopard is basically IP infringement, but also the Leopard abilities are kind of like caught up in a completely different series of abilities that it's a confusing fruit. Now, finally, some good news, the Yeti Devil Fruit. So we have the Arctic Clap, which is a big AoE or a big cone ability. Frost Boulder is an explosive slamming ability. Glacial Execution is just brutal. Then we have Tundra Rush, which is a slamming ability where you hold your opponent. You can also use a bunch of these abilities like untransformed as well. They're just less cool. Also, when you're transformed, you can swing your arms and roar. I don't think this thing is in One Piece at all, but I have been wrong before. Yeah, we have the Yeti Cool Brothers, but that's 2 very, very tall, hairy men. There's no actual Yeti Devil Fruit in One Piece, which is good news for us because I get to put another one in here that says not in One Piece. Let's go. All right, the Kitsune Devil Fruit. A little bit of a hard one to judge because in One Piece, it's actually the Dog Fruit model Kitsune. But let's just have a look at the attacks first. So we have our mouse button click, which is to use our claws. We also build up additional tails as we're going. Then we have the Accursed Enchantment, which is a slow low damage ability, like it sits on them and then damages them. Tails of Agony is a grab skill, technically. You don't grab them, but the skill does. Foxfire Disruptor is a giant explosion. And then Wild Assault is a movement skill that also slashes. And then we could transform into a very different looking Kitsune. And all of our abilities sort of evolve further, but they're similar. They're a chain of the other abilities all put together, except for that one, which has got big fox tails. Foxfire Disruptor just gets bigger. Wild Assault gets bigger. Everything gets bigger. Now, we know that it is Yamato that has this fruit, and she spends most of her time in her hybrid form, which we do not have. We don't have a hybrid form at all. We only have full transformation. So we see her hybrid form here. She does some running. I think that's pretty much it. And all of her actual abilities actually revolve around like ice fangs, and she has like an ice breath as well, which is nothing like our devil fruit. I would go as far as to say that the Kitsune fruit is not in One Piece. Okay, her fruit is different. She's actually an ancient wolf deity. So yeah, we're 100%. And finally, the dragon devil fruit. We have 2 dragon devil fruits. Mine's a blue dragon as well, because I bought the thing. So we have Heatwave Cannon, which is it's fire breath. Infernal Pincer, which is a grab and throw move. Scorching Downfall is like an AoE machine gun of fire. And then Draconic Soar is the ability to fly. And then we have our full transformation. Now, I've gone with the Eastern Dragon because I would argue that this one is the most Kaido-like. But I also think that they've made sufficient changes that it is less Kaido than it has ever been. It's also worth mentioning that Kaido actually ate a fish fruit. So we know Kaido has Blast Breath, which is like our first skill. Obviously, dragons breathe fire, or what else would you expect, right? Kaido has like a Twister ability. A lot of his stuff has to do with like his ability to manipulate the air, given his size, or like his slashed roars. Like this one, this is the bit where, they missed it. Zoro just slashes it away like it's nothing. So we don't have anything like that. And honestly, for that, I'm gonna put it as totally different, because a lot of people will argue it still looks a bit like Kaido. I personally would put it in not in One Piece. It is totally different. If you want to say it's in One Piece, then it is totally different to One Piece. Let's not forget that as far as we know, One Piece doesn't have a Western dragon, and we have a Western dragon, which is the cooler of the 2 dragons, might I add.